Osio.
Osio.
Cherokee greeting, wave the great feather. We're still in February, and we're still in Black History Month. And that's still what I'm starting out with here. Well, we have that, and I'm continuing with right here. If you illustrate this right here. This is my illustration for Califia. The name California has come from Califia, California, meaning the little land of Califia. It was believed that this was an island, and even the Spanish maps up until the 18th century, I've seen them continue to show this as an island. And Califia seemed to be a legend in the Mediterranean, that this is an island, a place that there is a African queen. Califia is an Arabic name for Lamia, the Greek called Libya, all in all from North or Northwest Africa. My main subject has been, for the past 2 or 3 weeks, the Cahuilla that are out here are part of this land of Califia, and among the ancestors, the ancient ancestors of the Cahuilla, they have stemmed from North Africa, Libya, and there is plenty of evidence of that. In fact, even I think about 30 years ago, it was reported that at the very south end of the Salton Sea, anciently Lake Cahuilla, in the vicinity of Brawley, in the sand dunes there, an ancient boat, or the remains of a boat, was found there, and by the report, it sounds like it was a carvel that once had a lantine rigging on it. That's Arabic. That's a kind of boat that did ply the coast of Northwest Africa. So it's a little bit of an indication. But mainly we want to see that Califia, this land of the African queen, is still here. So that's what I'm illustrating here. And I'm going to start off with the poem. And this again is from Black Nature. That 4 centuries of African American nature poetry edited by Camille Dungy that I read last week. This one today is by Shara McCullum, and she was born in Jamaica, and she grew up from a childhood in Pennsylvania, and she became a teacher of poetry at, I think it's Pembroke University. And here the title is The Spider Speaks. Now related to this, in the Cahuilla, the spider, properly the white spider, is the parthenogenic factor. So kind of keep that in mind here with Shara's poem. The spider speaks. No choice but to spin the life given. Mother warned me I would wake one dawn to the sun no longer yellow, to an expanse of blue. No proper word to name it. Weaving the patterned threads of my life, each day another web and the next. If instead I could carve my message in stone, would it mean more? I have only this form to give. When the last silvery strand leaves my belly, I will see what color the sun has become. So that gives us an introduction here. The Cahuilla is my main subject, and I consider the Cahuilla properly the Motahuita, the first people, to be a wellspring. And this past week, I have been there in Borrego Springs, and that's part of the Anza Borrego Desert. And also during that time, we journeyed up to the Malki Museum, which is, past Palm Springs and near Banning, and it was originally the Malki Cahuilla Reservation. The government has changed it to the Morongo Reservation. And it's not far from the Agua Caliente, which is in the city limits of Palm Springs, which is pretty large, where I've reported there a couple of weeks ago. The archaeological site has found in this very place where the Cahuilla have continued to live, that they've been there for 8,000 years, and the water that fuels the spring is 12,000 years old. So that gives us something of a location there. So that's the way that we go. And if we can go over here and look at my painting, so that I can have this, as a continuation. This is, the Coyote man that I painted out there in the Anza Borrego Desert. This time what I've done, I've encircled my piece here. You see this, these are rattles. They are made from the moth cocoons in the desert and filled with pebbles or seeds like that. That's what you're looking at here. So I'm making a desert connection here. People, especially the Akis, use these, wind these around their legs. This is a device a dancing device that has been in use for many thousands of years. So that's what these are. These are cocoons that come from the desert. Other things that I have here I want to connect with the desert. Here, this arrow quiver. This is called Hukili. It's made by Raul Sandoval, and it's made from the stalk of the chaparral yucca. There, it's a beautiful piece there to relate with the desert. And then to pair with it over here on this side, here is a gourd rattle with a carved wooden handle, and I've used the trunk line here to hold it for display. That's woven from the agave fiber. And this rattle is used by the bird singers. The Cahuilla bird singers is what they're called. And it's still an ancient tradition that is still alive and well. I've been in a number of occasions with them where they're singing. The bird singers are singing songs about birds as if they were people, as if they were humans. So they're kind of moral stories. They're kind of moral stories like, exactly like, don't do what these birds do, kind of thing. And the songs, sound something like, Tiamiatia yomi water, oyane tiamiatia miatia yomi water, oyane tiamiatia yomi water, oyane tiamiatia miatia yomi water. Ho ho ho! So that's kind of a sampling of what that's like. The other character I have right here, I've continued. I have this to be Mukat, and Mukat is the creator. Actually, it's a dual creator of Mukat and Tamahoyat. And Mukat is a little bit older. They hatched out of the spider eggs at the same time, but Mukat came out a little bit earlier, so he's a little bit older. And he kind of commands a lot of things like, the sun and ants and things like that, where Tamahoyat went down into the ground. Quilly, Quilly, Tamanika, Mikanika, go into the ground. And he is about water, but he also gave birth to up here. This is Moon Girl, Minali. Minali is the Moon Girl. And here is Kawahawa, the white spider that is the parthenogenic factor that has brought about her birth, Moon Girl or Moon Maiden. Now, she isn't just an idle moon sitting up there in the sky giving light. She also is a kind of a governess. She's kind of a boss like that. And what she regulates are the two major lineages, being the Coyote lineage and the bobcat. And in this, she governs their marriage and governs their funerary services and things like that. So she is definitely a boss lady, you know, that is very functional there. So we do have that there. And if we go down here, this is a pretty old rural basket that I had collected some years ago, actually in Borrego Springs. It's made of pine needles and stitched with juncus, which is a kind of rush. So that's a good thing to show. Here we go over here to this basket here. This is actually made by Claudia Popok, and in the Mackay Museum there is a basket just like it. And so it's made with the rush, with the juncus grass, and the red part on it is the part that's very low to the ground on the stalks of the reed there. So as I'm going on with these items here, I'm going to come over here and look at this basket. This is made by Abe Sanchez. Now, Abe Sanchez is also part of the Mackay Museum. He and his sisters, give demonstrations on basket. He's a renowned Cahuilla basket maker. And the images he has on this here is tacos. Well, that's very interesting. Tacos is the first wizard or shaman that was created by Mukat. And up there in Idlewild, above overlooking Idlewild, is this great rock that looks like an upright pestle. It's called the Great Thrust. That's his property. The Americans call that rock itself Taquitz. And that's very interesting to relate that, because as you look at a map of the United States, you see it's made up in states, it's sectioned off in states, and if you go into any state, you're going to see counties, and then in counties you're going to see cities or towns, and it goes finer and finer down. That everything just has this grid that is telescoping down and down. So imagine the Cahuilla Nation, its territory was like that. Everything, every part of it, every rock, every tree, every land, and everything in it is all somebody's property. And also for these spiritual beings, as we call the Nukatum. The Nukatum all had their particular place. The only one that we know for sure, of course, is up there at Idlewild, Taquitz. Taquitz is the place, the habitat, the domain of Taquos, the sorcerer, or original shaman, of which the old shaman also paid homage to or derived his help from them. So all that relates here in Abe Sanchez's basket. And over here, this is another Cahuilla bowl. This is a pottery bowl made by Tony Suarez in Yucca Valley, or 29 Palms. So I'm putting as much things here as I can to make this resonance, for this subject here. And we look down here, we see this is a primitive looking lizard, and the lizards in the paleontology of the Anza Borrego Desert are the authentic and original autochthonic creatures or beings. And the Cahuilla name is, Mulyak. And so the Muruwitam are also the progeny of Mulyak, who was created by the tear coming from Mukat. So that's what we have here, and here overlooking him. This is a handstone that I have colored to see. It has the lizard's eye. The lizard's eye with the stripe, the green stripe, Willia is called there, so that can go together with him. Now the thing that I've been doing out there for years and years is I'm saying I'm nature's son tracking the fat left undone. The fat that I'm tracking is the blood of Mukat. That blood is called the ewe. So Coyote with the ram in him is tracking the ewe of Mukat. And that's what that I'm showing you here. The blood is found on these rocks. Coyote had snatched Mukat's heart out of the cremation fire and saved his heart. And as he ran away with it, the blood from Mukat's heart fell on the rocks. And that's what I have here. Let me start with this one first. This is a lance-shaped blade that exactly fits the idea that I'm talking about here. It's actually a hand blade with the dried blood of Mukat on it. And then we can go over here to this one. This is a handstone that had the blood stain. And in the blood stain, Claudia noticed there was an apparition. And this apparition, I believe, is the face of Mukat and the face of Coyote. Isn't that amazing? And then the one next to it here, this is Shubao. Shubao is the finger. Here is the blood, but it actually is a finger stone tool. In other words, it is exactly what it says, and it has the blood of Mukat on it. So you see the kind of things that I have brought together here. Oh, I have one more that I should look at over here. This is a Cahuilla basket, a kind of like friendship basket. What's important is this here. This is called, Coyote track. It's kind of a cross like that. So Coyote track for tracking here, tracking the fat left undone. Tracking the fat left undone is meaning that which remains. What remains after the day is finished. What remains, after we live our life. That particular leftover. That leftover is tukime. Tukime meaning the leftover, meaning that's what I, Coyote, am tracking. And that the signs of that are these blood stains, as they might be, dripped on the rocks in the desert. So that is the way of recovering our life, recovering our roots, and so forth. We can go with that sort of thing there. Now, the main thing I'm going to have here is this piece here. This is a great, huge stone. I call it Nawily stone, Nawily Cahuilla. And I've made this rendering of it, and I've hung it up vertically so I could show it. But it's actually horizontal, and it's very big. So I'm kind of going with a description first. You can kind of see this board that I'm putting all these things on. I think it's about a 4x7. This here would be a little larger than that. I would say probably 5x8 is how it is. And it's horizontal. Here I've made a miniature of it, very miniature, to kind of give you the idea of, looking at it laying on the ground, and she's looking up at the sky. Nawily is also Nawily, which means body louse. Nawily also means young girl. What is figuring in this is white body. The white body of the young girl, the white body of the body louse. So that's why I have derived the name, the Nawily stone here. And how did she come about? In the beginning it was the foam of the sea, the pure white foam of the sea. Now, who knows better how to sing? Who knows better how to dance than I who have tasted the foam of the sea, the pure white foam of the sea. So she has emerged out of the foam of the sea. And there where she is Willy Wakwene, meaning her hiding place. She's west of Hakumba, Nakish, the gourd place. She's west of there, and it is a kind of a special place. It's kind of encircled there, and she's at the top of the circle, and there's a mound, and she is laying on top of this mound here. And when I first saw her, she reminded me of a trilobite. Maybe you can hear, look for a minute. Here is an actual small trilobite. So that's, to begin with, the impression that I had when I came to her. There, is quite a presence. She's actually made of a rock that is white crystalline, and I try to give that impression with this in sections like the trilobite and so forth. And she's quite informative, quite communicative, quite memorable, and I have derived so much from it. The Cahuilla society is, in the main, patriarchal. A lot of things is in the male sense. So this area here, there's nobody left living around here to know anything about these things. This is in the same vicinity as the other two previous pieces I've showed you. That is in the east there, all east of the town they call Yakumba, all the way out to where it drops down to the desert. So my guess is that here, Nawily, everything about her is the one figure that suggests mother. Like she's, a kind of a boss mother of, the two lineages, for instance, so there's some kind of governance there. So my guess is that she would be the deity that governs this particular locale, like Takwitz and Tapos in Ottawa. So all of that is the way that I am imagining her here. So I've tried to give enough of an image and a description of somebody who is very, very significant. And then we think of the stars in the sky. So the whole idea is, how are we going to relate to this Earth, Mother Earth? Well, she and the stars in the sky give us the clue. We are the lice. We are the lice on her body. How do you like that? That's, very nice. Claudia worked in the Indian hospital there in Arizona. And of course they have little babies and children come in and they, get them all cleaned up and like that. And then the relatives of the parents come in, knowing that these children have been cleaned up and bathed. They transport the body louse and they put the body louse back on the baby. So definitely body louse, definitely has a place in Native America relationships, right? So we can have all of that there. I think I have pretty much mentioned everything here for this. And I want to read this poem, to bring this particular part of the talk to, to its end. And this was just written by Claudia Poquak. And it is, coming exactly from the desert where we have been for the past week. She's titled it, Soothed by Earth's Curvature. In the desert, everything asks, no, begs to be felt. I look for something within myself in a place too deep to identify. Keep picking up stones filled with mica that dazzle me with their trapped stars. Practice reading the animal with my genes. A roadrunner pauses to stare, then darts behind a boulder. A crow caws overhead. A jackrabbit jumps behind a creosote as I follow Coyote's hidden paths to those trails wedged between the folds of mountain granite. See ribs run with a north-south grain, pulled apart by an east-west stretching across the basin. Mountain bighorn climb the mountain at sunset. Their shadows sculpt beings seen briefly, then quickly disappear, transforming between stone, leap, then stone again. This is the landscape of harsh wind and double rainbows beneath it. A major fault line squirms under the Salton Sea. Its stillness a facade of erupting possibilities. I don't have time to match my own movements with bighorns. Eat, leap, stand, ruminate, nap. Be vigilant. A juniper leans in an arroyo, telling me the shape of the wind. I listen to its stop and start voice. I am ready to listen to other women's stories of longing. Learn to be less afraid of death than living an unfulfilled life. Oh. Now I have a PS here. I'm presenting this book that has just hot off the press, we would say. And it is a book that Claudia has edited.
The card.
And Tim Britton has designed and put it together. And it's available. What it is pictures of these, we call them these displays, my layout for these talks over, I don't know, a year or more, like that. Accompanied with various poems that I have done with them. A lot of them are Mary Oliver and others. So that's what this is, and even the cover of the book itself was once a display. And that these are now available. And the exact information goes like this. Book title, found under Amazon Books. The title is A Journey Through the Seasons with Coyote Talks by Claudia Boquach. And the price of that is $10. And the talks that are featured in this have been regularly and continually, now over a long period of time, posted by Timothy Britton on YouTube. So you look for the most recent talk, by the date. So that starts out, the information here. I will continue to put this up on my future talks for anyone who really would like to see, what's in this book. Wonderful pictures. It really is evidence of my creative course and so forth. So that's the way I'm concluding our Coyote Talks today, and you may applaud. Thank you.